Hello, second graders. Today we're going to finish up Unit 5, Module A with Lesson 12. Tomorrow we're going to start Module B. So these two vocabulary words we have already had in the lesson in this unit. So the first word is wild, untamed, free. So wild, think about the wilderness. Johnny Appleseed lived outside. These animals would be wild animals. And the word hero is a superstar, a role model, or an ideal person to look up to. Okay, our objectives. Convention's objective is I will be able to rearrange complete, simple, and compound sentences. And then we have two writing objectives for today. Our first one is I will be able to write an opinion piece using linking words to connect opinions and reasons and use a concluding statement. And then our second one is I will be able to write an opinion piece to state my opinion and supply reasons that support the opinion. Okay, so this we've been working on all along. It's just we're putting it all together now. So our conventions, expand and rearrange sentences. Sometimes writers want to add interest to their writing by using a variety of sentences. To do so, they may expand or rearrange simple or compound sentences in a new way. So expanding simple sentences. My first sentence is Clara watered the seeds. Clara imagined the plants that would grow. Now, I could expand and also put these together to say, as she watered her seeds, Clara imagined the plants would grow from them. So it's combining these two sentences. It's a little bit different of a variety, starting with a clause, and then we have our subject here. It could make your writing sound a little bit more sophisticated. Okay, so for our conventions practice, you're going to go in your online writing journal and you're going to rewrite the sentences below by rearranging and expanding them. So I'll read each one to you and then I'll show you what I would probably write for number one. So number one, the other night we sat in our backyard. We watched falling stars. We saw about a dozen of them. Number two, he walked along the country road. He stopped to plant apple trees. He stopped to speak with settlers. Okay, so for the first one, the first sentence, actually, my subject is we, so I would want to start with that. It's a more direct way of writing. So I would say, capital W, we sat in our backyard the other night, and then put a period. Then what I would do is, since these two have, again, the same subject, we watched the falling stars. We saw about a dozen of them. So we've already practiced this. We're going to combine these two with a linking word. Just make this a little bit smaller. Say, we watched falling stars and we saw about a dozen of them. Okay, so that's how I would rewrite these three sentences by rearranging and expanding them. So now I want you to try number two on your own in the conventions. Okay, so state and support an opinion. Writers do not write only one draft of their writing. Writers reread their first draft and revise their writing to make sure they have included strong reasons and evidence to support their opinions. They rearrange their sentences to improve the overall flow and interest of their writing. So you have all written a draft of an opinion piece that expresses your opinion about the two texts, John Chapman, Planter and Pioneer, and Johnny Appleseed. So today you're going to revise your writing to make it stronger, more convincing. So by revising, you might add in more details, or you might, like we just practiced in our conventions, you might want to expand and rearrange your sentences. Also, you can combine them. So state and support an opinion. Some ways to revise an opinion piece are to add reasons and details to strengthen your opinions and to rearrange sentences to make the writing clearer, more interesting. So some questions to keep in mind as you revise. Does my opinion have reasons or examples to support it? What words or details could I add to make my reasons more specific? What linking words can I add to strengthen the connections between my opinion and reasons? And which sentences can I rearrange to improve the flow and clarity of my writing? So that means how clear your writing is. We want our writing to sound as if someone is speaking. Okay, so for the next part, we're going to have to look at pages 7, 8, and 9, and 10. I'm going to reread them here to you. Page 7, At Home Outdoors. Once John started walking, he kept walking. Every day he walked from morning to night. He only stopped to sleep. One night he slept in a hollowed out tree stump. The next night it was in a pile of leaves. All day and night, summer, fall, winter, and spring, John lived outdoors. Was John homeless? He was not. John was always at home. With all those plants and animals, he was never alone. The whole outdoors was his home. Page 8. He loved sleeping with the moon and stars above and a fire to warm him. And for food, well, he had lots of wild fruit and vegetables. John would not go hungry. Sometimes John had visitors. Did a man really live out here all by himself? What these visitors saw amazed them. His coat was a coffee sack with 3 holes. One was to poke his head through, the other 2 were for his arms. The night was cold, but John's feet were bare. He said shoes hurt his feet. He was better off without them. He poked around the fire with a stick. Okay, and the final page, page 10. He rolled out some steaming potatoes and onions for dinner. In a little nest of leaves, he had handfuls of blueberries and nuts for dessert. He had water from a nearby stream in a tin pot that he sometimes used for a hat. Welcome to my home, he said. This is how I live in my wilderness. The wilderness is my home. Okay, so let's go back and look at this text from the pages we just read. Was John homeless? He was not. John was always at home. The whole outdoors was his home. So he loved sleeping with the moon and stars above and a fire to warm him. And for food, well, he had lots of wild fruit and vegetables. The writer gives specific reasons and examples to support the opinion that John was not homeless. He was warm at night and he had lots of food to eat. Now, if we look at the other text, Johnny Appleseed, we're going to go back and revisit pages 53 and 57. Remember, this prefix here, re means to do something again. So to visit is to go. So if we revisit, we're going to go back to the text. Okay, page 53. John Chapman was born in Massachusetts in 1774. And then on page 57, it says in 1797, John settled in Pennsylvania. He collected apple seeds from nearby cider mills. So notice how the writer moved the prepositional phrase with a date to the beginning of the sentence in the second example. Writing is more interesting when sentences don't all start the same way, right? So you want to make your writing varied. You don't want to keep saying John Chapman, John, right? You could say he, or they moved this part, this prepositional phrase, in the beginning. That's what I was talking about, making your writing sound more sophisticated, more advanced. Okay, so revise and strengthen an opinion piece. John Chapman, Planter and Pioneer, and Johnny Appleseed are both books that give information about the life and work of Johnny Appleseed. I think John Chapman, Planter and Pioneer is a more informative book because right? So I'm going to get rid of what I originally wrote because I'm repeating. It sounds too much of the same. So I'm going to replace John Chapman, Planter and Pioneer with it, with this pronoun it, okay? Because it helps readers understand what life was like when Johnny Appleseed lived in the wilderness. I add this detail in the wilderness to give the reader a picture in their mind. Johnny Appleseed just gives very basic information about his life. Now, this whole example, right, is going to even make this reason stronger. So, for example, the text Johnny Appleseed tells readers that Johnny Appleseed died in 1845, but John Chapman, Planter and Pioneer, explains that he died in March of 1845 at the age of 71. Okay, so just like I've showed you here, right, by adding some more details, some more examples, okay, I also kind of look to see where I can improve my writing, if there's any pronouns I can put in. So in your online writing journal, this will actually be your final writing piece. I want you to go back to what you already wrote and think of ways to improve the draft of your opinion piece about the book you feel is more informative about John Chapman's life. Is it John Chapman, Planter and Pioneer, or Johnny Appleseed? So here you'll revise by, add linking words to make the connections between opinions, reason, and ideas stronger. Rearrange sentences to add interest and variety. That means make them different. Include a concluding statement or section to wrap up your ideas. Revise your writing. Well, you're going to do this in your online writing journal. Okay, so that is lesson 12. Remember, you can always rewind the video, rewatch, or email me if you have any questions. Thank you.